16 to 18 hours a day of working is the most destructive thing an entrepreneur can do. We're not aiming for 18 hours. We're aiming for the 6 hours that you choose to touch work. You achieve more in those 6 hours than a guy does in 3 days. That's what we're optimizing for, right? The way we've systemized our lives, we need to make as little decisions as possible. Because again, how much work are you putting your mind through on the little consumption, right? You're supposed to manage family life, this, that, and the next. Even wherever we can remove entropy, we'd remove it. Things like what I'm supposed to eat. Look, I don't want to think about, oh, I still need to sort out with the delivery guys if my food comes. That is brain stress. If you think about it, if you're trying to build something big, if you're trying to scale to 7 and 8 figures, or even to that 9-figure mark, you need clarity.
Before we get into the podcast, I've got a once in a lifetime opportunity for you. If you're a Muslim business owner that's feeling a bit stuck with his business, kind of right now, if your business feels like playing the game of whack-a-mole, you know that game we used to play in the arcade as kids, where you whack one mole and then 2, 3 come up, and then you whack those 2 and another 2, 3 come up. If it feels a bit overwhelming like that, like you're not actually making progress, then I've got something for you. I'd like to give you the opportunity to have myself and my 7-figure team come into your business and build out a $100,000 revenue engine in 30 days. In other words, we're going to take your business from you pushing a wheelbarrow to driving a Bugatti Chiron within 30 days, inshallah ta'ala. We've done this for so many of our clients in the past. For example, brother Fawaz, after just one call with myself, he grew his business by $100,000, alhamdulillah.
These were in-depth, detailed, broken down, structured sessions, right? That all resulted in like, you know, a revenue of like over 100,000 straight away, right off the bat within like a, I think 2-3 month window of implementation.
Over 100?
Yes, subhanAllah, it was nuts.
Now imagine what we could do if we came in and actually worked on your business for you and with you. If you're interested, all you have to do is just book a call at the link below with one of our team members. The purpose of this call will be to run a diagnostic on your business and to give you some real advice that's actionable, to show you exactly what's wrong with your business. And if we can help you at the end, we'll make an offer to you and build out this $100,000 revenue engine in your business, inshallah ta'ala. Now, just to be clear, there are only 20 spaces available at this very affordable price. It will never be this low ever again. So if you want a 7-figure team to build out a Bugatti Chiron of a business for you, inshallah ta'ala, and then give you the keys and put you in the driving seat so you can just accelerate to 100K afterwards, inshallah, book a call right now. And let's see if me and my team can get to work for you, inshallah. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Guys, welcome back to the Righteous and Rich podcast. It's a podcast where I'm dedicated to bring about conversations and knowledge and education for Muslims who are in the entrepreneurial space, who want to excel and reach the highest levels of business, whilst at the same time making sure that they are within the boundaries of the deen and they are motivated by the deen to be successful so they can serve the religion of Allah with the wealth that they accumulate. Today's podcast, the discussion is with a brother that I've decided to take on as a mentor. And mentorship is very important in our deen. The Prophet ﷺ had a teacher, he had a shaykh, he had a murabbi. That was Jibreel, the angel Jibreel alayhi salam. And the Prophet ﷺ, his companions, he mentored them. And then they went on to mentor others. This concept of mentorship, having a teacher, having someone that can give you access to things that you may not have access to, is something that's necessary in various different aspects and parts of our life. And I am no stranger to this. I've been looking for and working with mentors since over a decade. And a person should be humble and should not think they are above mentorship. And when you find someone that has something that you don't have, then you should grab that person by the horns if possible, metaphorically speaking. Today I have Brother Fawaz.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Alaikum salam, Fawaz. Okay, look, so we obviously spoke, right? A lot of people sometimes ask, what does Fawaz do? I see it in the comments, right? I see it in some of the group chats, so on and so forth. And what you do is really amazing, man. When I actually sat down with you and you broke down, you basically help people perform at their peak. At the end of the day, whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's business, whether it's seeking knowledge, you have to perform. You have to get things done with the permission of Allah. You help people perform at their peak by looking at all the various different bottlenecks inside of their life. It could be spiritual bottlenecks, relationship, health-wise, mental, and you help them unlock that so they can excel and turn up every single day, perform at the highest level. So when I heard that, I was like, you know what? I'm a pretty productive guy. I'm definitely more productive than most people, alhamdulillah. But I, at the same time, know exactly where my bottlenecks are. And there are some things that I'm struggling, and I'm conscious that at the end of the day, sometimes I'm the biggest bottleneck in some of the things that I'm trying to achieve. So when I heard that this is what you do, like you actually research and gather data scientifically on why people go from 6 to 7 figures, why they go from 7 to 8 figures, all in the context of your deen, whilst extending your deen, I was like, you know what, I need to mess with this brother. And since then, alhamdulillah, you've also, mashallah, tabarakallah, got 8-figure entrepreneurs that are now interested, Allah barik, and have committed to taking you as their coach and mentor. There's guys on the Righteous and Rich program, like Coach Munir, Modern Muslim Man, who are like, you know, Fawaz is my coach. And I'm seeing it becoming a thing that's common, that people are now starting to realize that you have this skill on the back of this data that you collected. And you know what I love about it? You're serving entrepreneurs now, but it's not like you use this to become an entrepreneur. You were already a person who had hit 7 figures by the age of 20. So you already understand business and how to perform at a peak level, and now you're helping others. So with that said, Akhi, in this podcast, I want you to help me.
Sure. That's what we're gonna do. That's the goal of what we're here today, inshallah. This is going to be a snapshot, of course.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and you know, I don't want to sell it to the public that it happens over one session.
Oh yeah, but that's
in you know, a couple of hours or whatever. And this is almost what we say a minimum 3-month process, inshallah, right? But inshallah, I'm going to take you through everything, inshallah. But first, I just want you to understand what performance and peak performance is. See, a lot of people misunderstand the concept of peak performance. They think it's about biohacking, you know, things like you taking care of your sleep, etc., which is a factor, right? Or nootropics, you know, these pills that help you with the brain focus.
Okay, these are brain focus
like these
pills.
brain focus pills or brain performance pills, like they tell you take omega-3, etc., Shilajit, all these things, right?
That stuff doesn't work for me, by the way.
No, even if it does work,
I heard it works for some people. In fact, I see the comments, I see the testimonials. That stuff doesn't work for me. Someone gave me this pill. They said this one, don't worry, it wasn't like haram. Apparently, this helps you focus.
Yeah.
Rather than I took shit legit. And all that happened was I put something nasty in my mouth.
Yeah.
And sorry, taste wise, I meant, right? Not that I'm putting it down, but yeah, that stuff doesn't work for me personally.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work for me.
Perfect, and that's fine, right? Because anyways, even if those things do work, okay, those aren't the base thing. That's not the baseline, right? I'm gonna give it to you as an example, right? Imagine I had a car, okay, and my car doesn't move very well. And what do? I say, you know what? I'm gonna switch out the engine and get like a V8 engine. I'm gonna get a really big engine inside the car. That doesn't solve the problem, right? The car doesn't run well. There's an issue with the car itself. Me trying to get better wheels, for example, or change the rims or the alloys to, like, you know, increase the performance of the car. Those things don't make the car run better, right? At its baseline, it needs to what? Be functional. And this is why we go into these things. We're ignoring nootropics. Now, it's not to say we're going to completely like eradicate it and not allow you to use these things, or you shouldn't use these things. Rather, we don't depend on those things. It's sort of like coffee as well, caffeine. A lot of people use caffeine in the wrong way, right? They're dependent on it. That's the first thing we need to solve as well. Now,
so just to understand. So, are you saying that there is no one thing that's gonna fix your problem, but there's like a foundation that you have to build?
100%.
Okay.
It's a system.
A system. Okay.
Best way to describe
it. Shouldn't be something external, intrinsic, that stimulates you, or rather, it's something you have to build inside of yourself with Allah.
Precisely.
Okay.
Those things can improve the situation, but they don't fix. It's like me giving you painkillers, like a paracetamol pill if you have a broken arm. That's not going to do much for you.
It's
the pain, yeah, it's going to numb the pain temporarily, but your arm is still broken. And later on, you're going to feel the pain, right? And eventually, the more pills you take, you're actually harming other things. So this is why it's so important that we solve the right bottlenecks at the right time. All because something is good for you doesn't mean it's good for you now, right? And that's one of, again, the base points of why we built everything, all right? Now, what I want you to do, the first thing we need to do, like we said, is understand peak performance. You see, if you want to be at peak performance, first you need to understand what performance is, right? Being at peak performance is be able to perform irrespective of how much sleep you got. You know, whether home is hot right now, as we say, right? Whether, you know, things are going tough at home or families nagging us, etc., we should still be able to perform to the highest level. Whether we just lost a big, massive client, whether we're going through insane emotional stress, whether we're going through insane emotional pressures, we should still be able to perform. Because I'm sure you notice, like many others, right? Have you noticed an impact in your performance in regards to how much stress you go through?
Yeah, 100%. To be honest, this was the main reason why I wanted to to get mentored by you is because, so I was looking at Surah Al-Ahzab, right? And Surah Al-Ahzab is a very interesting surah, and this question was always rattling my brain. There's two main topics of Surah Al-Ahzab. I'm not saying these are the only topics, but there are two topics that stand out. Number one, battle, but not any battle. A battle the Prophet ﷺ described as the most scariest battle for the Sahaba. Allah said, to the point where your hearts were in your throats and you were shaken. The enemy attacked you from above and below. Like this battle, Allah didn't describe it in any other way. Not the battle of Badr, not the battle of Uhud. In battle of Uhud, they thought the Prophet died. Battle of Ahzab is the one that Allah described as the scariest. They literally came to try to annihilate the entirety of the Muslim Ummah that was on earth that day. Yet at the same time, the second thing that Surah talks about is rulings pertaining to the household. And I never could make the connection. Like, this is a surah that's talking about jihad, hypocrites, the ranks being divided between the true believers and the false believers. And then it goes into tell the women to wear hijab. This is what you say to your wives or messenger. Oh, women, this is how you should behave. And I found the answer not too long ago. But Allah's permission and His mercy. And one of the wisdoms that the scholars mention is that it shows that a man, despite the circumstances he's in, like for example, war, and there's fear and terror and lives are at stake, doesn't mean that he abandons his household. Rather, he makes sure that all of his responsibilities are intact, and he's at the peak of responsibility. The leader, the head of state, the general, the commander of the Muslim army, the Prophet ﷺ. At the same time, he's making sure that everything in his house is in line. And I'll be honest, I really struggle with things like that. Like for example, if I haven't had a good night's sleep, I really will struggle. And I noticed that if like things are in terms of studying are like becoming overwhelming and seeking knowledge, I will notice that things will suffer in my business. If things in my business are tense, I need to put some attention there. Things in my household might struggle, for example. So I really want to mention I resonate with that, and that's really the fundamental reason why I wanted to even do this in the first place.
Alhamdulillah. And perfect, right? This is the key thing. Look, things happen in life, things happen at home. We believe in the concept of qadr, and we don't understand what is to come. So leaving your ability to perform, to memorize, to grow your business, depending on how good life is going, is dangerous for your business. It's dangerous for your company. If you're relying and you are only able to perform on the days where things are going well, right? Or when there's no problems all across the board or the stress isn't too much, you're risking your company. Because if something difficult happens to you today, or you go for a certain situation, then you're going to very much struggle to be able to scale your company, because now you don't know how to deal with the stress and the management and all these things. And it's an ongoing cycle. So I'm sure you've noticed this. All the entrepreneurs we've worked with, they've noticed this as well.
Without a shadow of doubt.
So you're going to start something, right? So let's say you're working on business starts going well. So now you're like, you know what, I need to start fixing my home, organizing the house affairs, etc. Then you start fixing the house affairs. Then you start gym, right? You're like, I need to fix gym. So now business is crumbling. So you're running back to business, and in the process, because we're going in a cycle now the house is dropping. So now we're like, okay, khalas, business is back up decent. Let me go to the house. Do you understand? So it's like this constant ongoing cycle of I'm running after fixing this bottleneck. That one's kind of going well right now. Then I'm moving on to the next thing. But we're not actually growing anything. Nothing is scaling. We're always just maintaining.
It's like whack-a-mole. You smack one, another one pops up. You smack that one, another one pops up.
Precisely. And that's normal. Anyway, that's going to happen, right? There's going to be certain things that are more important for you to fix. And we have a qaida for this as well, as we refer to as just-in-time learning, which we'll talk about, inshallah.
Qaida means principle, right?
Sorry?
Principle.
Precisely. Principle. Just-in-time learning. It's a very, very important principle that inshallah we're going to cover, right? But first, I want to talk about the first thing. The first thing we need to do with you isn't maximize your potential. Although that's the route I know you want to take, and I know all the entrepreneurs want to take in, getting these books and getting more knowledge, etc., blah, blah, blah. We need to minimize interferences first. Entropy is it's sort of discombobulation, right? Interferences, things that are random in your life that start to affect your life, right? We need to actually start by minimizing sources of entropy, minimizing interferences before we grow your potential. Because like we said, performance is equal to Potential minus interference. So in any equation, the first thing you need to solve is what? You need to get the minuses, you need to get the negatives you need to minimize them as much as possible if you want to increase the other side of the equation.
It's like with business, right? There are times when you will make more money by increasing profit, but there's times, by making more sales, and there's times where you make more money by cutting costs.
Precisely.
So I guess that's
precisely 100%. So I'll give it to you like this. You have to understand how we work as human beings, right? Even your body, it has what we refer to as a feedback loop. Now, what's a feedback loop? A feedback loop is essentially every system has inputs, process, output, right? A feedback loop is your body taking those outputs and plugging them back into the inputs. Now, a perfect example of this is homeostasis, right? Temperature regulation. When your body starts to be in a hot room, what happens naturally? You start to sweat as well for your body to what? Cool down your temperature. That's the only way for us to survive as, human beings, etc. by regulation. Now, that is actually a negative feedback loop. Why is that a negative feedback loop? Because that's keeping you what? Regulating. Majority of us are regulating with our feedback loops. Rather, we need to scale. We're trying to grow. So
before we go, give me an example of that in life, like how an entrepreneur might be in that situation.
Perfect. Okay, like we mentioned, he's solving one bottleneck. He's solving, let's say, his family, issues. Let's say that hasn't been paid attention to. He solves them. So then he's like, okay, that's doing better. So now what do I need to do? Move on to business, right? Now he's starting to solve his business, etc. And then
it's just homeostasis. He's not going anywhere.
Exactly. He's just regulating.
He's just regulating.
Precisely.
Okay.
That is your biggest enemy when it comes to scaling. What you need to do is minimize as much sources of entropy. Now we have docs that we take through holistically, of course. We ask you like 60 questions, right? To actually understand, because I hate asking questions one time. You're never going to give me the answer in the first time, right? If I ask you, for example, what's your biggest problem in life right now? You're going to maybe give me a quick answer. Maybe you even think for 5 minutes, right? But if we look at it and we don't even ask you that question, but we rather ask you like, what's something you've been spending the most time working on recently? What's something that's been giving you the biggest, because we give egotistical answers just as human beings.
You basically attack it indirectly.
Exactly, from all angles. Then we're actually able to narrow down that this is really your biggest bottleneck. So every single person I've ever asked, what's your current biggest bottleneck? And he gives me an answer. When we actually go to solve, it's not his biggest bottleneck. It's not. And majority of the times, what have we been conditioned to think? My biggest bottleneck is my knowledge. I need more knowledge on sales. I need more knowledge on marketing. We need to increase our ad spend or ROAS, But that doesn't change the fact that if you're not able to perform, right? There's actually a statement in in Atomic Habits by James Clear, explains this perfectly. And it went over a lot of people's heads. The book Atomic Habits is famous, but this one line is actually enough to write a book upon in itself.
Okay.
He says, you do not rise to the level of your potential, you fall to the level of your systems. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems.
Wow.
Entrepreneurs don't rise to the level of their technicals, they fall to the level of their performance. No matter how good your technicals are, if you're not actually able to use them and perform to the best of your ability daily, so what's the use in all the technicals you've learned? And that's why we're frustrated. This guy is better. I'm better at him than marketing. My product is better than his. Everything I have is better than his. How is he still beating me in the market?
He's got better systems.
He can perform. His system of performance, his overall system is better than yours.
Even his skill, his product is not as good as yours, but his systems are better.
Precisely.
Wow.
We fall to the level of our systems, not your goals, not your vision. It's all about the system in itself. So this is our first thing, why we look at what? The systems of life. We have different systems when it comes to life, right? We have our body, we have our mind, right? That's a system itself. We have relationships as well, which a lot of people act like, is not a thing, but it's a thing. And as Muslims, we have spirituality as well. Right? The kuffar, they will struggle to ever explain the concept of barakah to you. They've translated it to luck or, his own hard work, etc. Like we actually mentioned earlier today as well.
Well, actually, I think their solution for barakah is work 12 hours a day.
Precisely. And that doesn't
16
work.
hours a day.
Yeah. 18 hours a day, by the way.
That's their response for barakah, isn't it?
100%. And by the way, 16 to 18 hours a day of working is the most destructive thing an entrepreneur can do. We're not aiming for 18 hours. We're aiming for the 6 hours that you choose to touch work. You achieve more in those 6 hours than a guy does in 3 days. That's what we're optimizing for, right?
Okay.
So that's the potential. If we're able to, I want you to think every room has a ceiling, right? If we're actually able to expand your ceiling, you can jump a lot higher. right? But we can't just expand the ceiling because that's not enough. Now we need to teach you how to actually be able to reach the top also, which is how we minimize interferences. You can expand the ceiling or you can actually higher the floor, right? So before we even want to expand the ceiling, which is increasing your potential solving, we just want to minimize what? And litigate all sources of entropy. Now, what are some examples of sources of entropy, right, in someone's life? It could be, for example, things that you're doing. The best way I describe it is things that are causing disturbances in your life that you probably shouldn't do as well as an entrepreneur, such as managing your calendar. So low leverage. Get an EA, right? So low leverage to manage your own calendar, to manage where you're supposed to be at a certain time. For an entrepreneur who has a big vision to cook, I find that ridiculous. Really and truly, right? And people say, yeah, but I enjoy cooking, or no one cooks the way I don't like to. But you're an entrepreneur. You should be replenishing, not further putting your mind through difficulty, right?
You know, just very quickly on that point. Yeah, Brother Harris, people may have seen the podcast that I did with him. It might come out, but basically he's a very big entrepreneur, Alam Barak. Jay-Z invested in him. Chanel invested. Many other companies invested. He ended up leaving and lost $2 million liquid because they wanted to push some LGBT agenda in his company. He lost control of the company, but he left it for the sake of Allah. Anyway, this brother, he's come here now, and the guy, he's got, I think, 5 businesses, bro. And they're not a joke. Like, one is AI Genius Suite, it's called. It's an AI business. The other one is like a waste business where they take food waste and they turn it into fertilizer, you know, in the Middle East. And every order, he's like, I get every order is minimum 100,000. And he's got like these other businesses, he's got a brand. And I actually just said to him, I said, you know, as far as I'm concerned, you're breaking all the rules. I'm not doubting you. I want to learn. Because what I learned is that, you know, you got to focus on one thing. And he was like, oh, I did focus on one thing for like 4 or 5 years. Like, now I've been able to branch out and I leverage people's different skill sets. And that's how I'm able to kind of do all this. I got people that are working for me, all these teams. But I was like, but still, it's a bit insane. Like, how do you manage all this? He said, oh, I have an EA. My EA handles my whole calendar for me, talks to people. Because dealing with the human capital that you have can sometimes be a massive interference, because all these people want to talk to you, and just spending effort yourself trying to arrange the calendar. Trust me, I know when you just said that statement, it spoke to my heart. It is pain and suffering. Do you understand? And since I got an EA, I literally, I think he's spoken to you as well, right? He's chatting to everyone now. And I only did it last week. As soon as I spoke to the brother, the next day I said, yo, bro, you need to manage my calendar. Okay, wallahi, it gives you so much time back in your life. You're like, I didn't even know I had that time.
And not even brain, it lifts cognitive stress, which is something, you know, people always think about time. Forget, time is actually, it's important, super important, but it's not the main thing. Sometimes cognitive weight is so much more than time.
Explain that. What do you mean by
right? So these are things that actually take up your, look, I want you to imagine your brain as a table, right? There's only a certain amount of things your brain can carry. And every time you put something in a space in your brain, you've eradicated the opportunity for something else to come in. Our brains can't handle a million things, right? Which is why we have calendars, why we have all these other softwares to carry. It's essentially the second brain, right? To carry, I believe it's Tim Fogel or something like that. He wrote the book, The Second Brain, Building a Second Brain. So we do have a second brain in the sense of our calendars, etc. But I think human beings should have 3 brains, entrepreneurs specifically. You need your EA, and then you can have your calendars and all your other stuff as well. The reason I say that is because the cognitive load, when you're not managing all these things, when you're managing all these things, you're thinking so many thoughts in a day. I hate choosing what I eat. I don't like it.
You know, right? I actually observed this when we were at the cafe earlier, and when the lady was taking the order, she asked, "What do you want?" And you said, "Acai bowl." Or acai, acai. And then she was like, "Which one?" You're like, I don't have, like, and I could tell it wasn't forced. It was so natural. It was like, I don't want to think about it. Yes. Just make it for me, make whatever. And then I heard you say something to yourself, or maybe you said to Muhammad, I don't want to make decisions about things that I don't need to make decisions about. Something to that effect.
100%. And that's for us why the way we've systemized our lives, we need to make as little decisions as possible. Because again,
it fogs the brain. It takes
like your body can only handle a certain amount of exercise, all right? The same thing as your brain. What do most entrepreneurs consume? Like maybe 2,400, 2,500 calories per day. How much work are you putting your mind through on the little consumption, right? You're supposed to manage family life, this, that, and the next. Even wherever we can remove entropy, we'd remove it. Things like what I'm supposed to eat. Look, for example, my eating knows Monday, Thursdays, yani, if he's fasting, for example, the food needs to be there at Maghrib time. I don't want to think about, oh, I still need to sort out with the delivery guys if my food comes. Like, that is brain stress, if you think about it. Now, it's fine for a guy who just has a little shop or whatever, and that's his life. If you're trying to build something big, if you're trying to scale to 7 and 8 figures, or even to that 9-figure mark, you need clarity. But you can't think of baby, silly things.
I think this is even for serious religion. Like, 100%. I had this conversation with my sheikh, right? I said to him, because I like to always just, if I read something from a kafir, I always like to just run it by just to make sure, I get this down straight. So I said, sheikh, I'm really kind of like thinking to get like assistance to, like, I want to get a house manager. I've got an EA, and, maybe even, a couple other extra people to kind of do some stuff for me, a driver, for example. Is this right? Is this wrong? Like, what do you think? Is it, does it, anything go against the, we're talking, and it became very clear to me that, one of the reasons why some of the scholars in the past were able to achieve so much, alongside many things, is that they were able to be so productive because they had helpers. They had, for example, what you would call a khadim. Like, if you look at the Prophet, he had multiple helpers. Anas ibn Malik, radiallahu anhu, one of them, the most famous one, right? The Prophet had helpers that would do tasks and do things for him on his behalf. Yes, he would still, do things himself. You would see him, breaking the stones in the trenches, the Battle of Ahzab, leading by example. But he had people that were serving him to be able to do those tasks. And I was like, what? It makes sense why the Salaf were able to do so many things, and Imam Malik just had to focus on teaching and nothing else. Of course, I'm not saying this is the only piece of the puzzle, but like, bro, they were not really spending their time doing low leverage tasks. So Precisely. They could focus on the task at hand.
100%. Like, I always tell people, it's like, imagine you only have a certain amount of currency in a day, 1,000. You don't want to spend 100 talking to your dentist. You don't want to spend 100. You want to spend 1,000 on what? On your business. 1,000 is on your deen. The less things you have to do in a day, the less choices you have to make in a day, and there's studies to prove this, by the way, the more effective your decision making actually becomes, right?
That's actually one of the reasons why I wear white thobes. There's a hadith person saying it's the best clothing. The best clothing is wearing white, but also you don't have to think like, if you open I have, I think like 10, 11, just white thobes.
It minimizes as much decisions as you make. Do you know how, like, again, when you understand the value of time, people in the morning, what do they spend time looking at their thing? What am I going to wear today? He's actually stressed his mind about what he's supposed to wear today, and he's taking his time.
And I can't lie, I used to be that guy. And it actually takes, it's long.
It is long.
It's actually long. It's actually long. Even if Obama was asked, I guide him, here, why don't you pick out your clothes? He said, I don't have time to make that decision. I'm president of the...
And to everyone, it sounds silly. When I was actually getting my EA, I goes, if you think it's beneath you, right, to like order me food or like make sure certain minor things are in check, then don't. It's the mentality of he's building something that serves so many people, and I'm helping him build that. Does that make sense? So the vision, of course, again, has to be connected, right?
To the point, I get my EA to find places for me to take my daughter. To order things for my wife.
You shouldn't have to make those decisions on a daily basis. You're stressing your mind, right? And people who make these decisions, they can't understand why you would offload them. Again, cognitive load. You don't know how important that is. And I'm going to show you multiple places where you can actually remove and eliminate cognitive load, right? But first, I actually want to just talk about, right, identifying the key areas like your health, productivity, relationships, finances, and decision making. If we can optimize, again, all of these areas, right? For example, if your sleep quality is bad, naturally that affects other areas of your life. A lot of the times, all I hear entrepreneurs say is they always prioritize quantity of sleep. How many hours should I be sleeping? That's actually irrelevant, right? It's actually more important in terms of quality of sleep, doing the right things to make sure that your rest is really good, which, by the way, is again the importance of removing cognitive load, because the less cognitive load you have, the better you sleep, the more increased quality of sleep you get. Because people think all of a sudden when I go to bed, like it's like my mind shuts off. If you've had a high stress day, you're going to see it. So I'm sure you've wore a Whoop, right? The band. You can see when you've had a high stress day, you can actually see it affect the performance of how well your recovery and your sleep is. It's a fact, right? Which is
like a computer. Like if it's been running for a while, you turn off, you hear that fan still on.
It takes time.
Remember the Lamborghini? When it turned down, when it broke down, right? It turned off, but the engine was still going on for like 10, 20 minutes because it was being revved that whole time.
Precisely.
You can't switch it off for a second.
It's a whole process, and which is why as well, one of the things that we preach is you don't slow down when you're about to go sleep. No. You should already have it from like a 6 p.m., 7 p.m. once the working day is heavily done, especially Aisha time, like around Maghrib. Everything should start to slowly start to dial down in your life, right? And people think, like I mentioned, oh yeah, but I can't. You can manage your schedule, and we help this be done, right? And here's the important thing. In terms of complexity science, right, we understand that we can't change one part of a system unless what happens, if you take one part of a system and just change that part, and the other part isn't optimized to be able to handle that part, then they have a problem. For example, let's say I boost my engine power and it's able to go X speed, but if I don't change the wheels and the wheels can only handle a certain amount of speed, let's say 250 kilometers, doesn't matter how good the engine is. Now we have a new problem, right? So just by changing small aspects in certain sequences, you can actually increase the optimization of the system. It's the same thing when it comes to yourself. We don't aim to fix mad things. We're aiming to work on small little things all across the board, and ultimately that changes. You know, I read a quote by Ibn al-Qayyim. He says self-reflection, he's talking about self-reflection here. He says self-reflection helps you get closer to Allah, which is feedback loops, by the way, right? How? The one more reflects, the more he corrects himself. The more he corrects himself, the closer he becomes to Allah. So when you actually look at it, I hate when people mention the saying of Umar ibn Khattab, hold yourself to account before you're held to account, because they never do it justice. He's talking about feedback loops, right? Seeing how your day went, seeing what things went wrong in your life, and again, changing that the next day. And if you do that long enough, you can't recognize yourself. You're a different man at the end of a week. You've changed yourself 7 times in 1 week. You've optimized 7 times in a week. How are you going to be? This is why people who understand the laws of peak performance, they actually become better so much quicker. Their businesses grow so much quicker. Instantly, like for example, our consultations, right? We have consultations. You tell me, Fawaz, you should change this to X, Y, Z. Instantly you're seeing it affect in the company very quickly. And that's why after even that consultation with you, what happened? We had our highest revenue in funds. It's the ability to take the feedback and straight away put it in the input, and then everything changes. But here's the main thing I always like to help people understand, because some people, they've tried to optimize their inputs, their processes and their outputs. Systems cannot disassociate themselves from the environment in which they operate in. Meaning what? I always like to give the example of a cake, okay? If I'm trying to bake a nice, amazing cake, all because I have the best ingredients and I have the best process to make the cake, doesn't necessarily mean I get my desired output. It has to be an environment, meaning the oven has to be able to go to the right temperature in order for me to get that cake. So many of us as entrepreneurs, we have put ourselves in an environment where we cannot optimize for peak performance, right? It's like, let's say, for example, you're trying to record 4K on a camera that shoots 1080. It doesn't matter how good your process and instructions are. You fall surrounded to the environment. Does that make sense? So one of the things as well we do is how to optimize your environment. And I genuinely believe, especially entrepreneurs, their lives, the things that they do, their drive, their society, their rooms, their life, their desk should be a certain way that optimizes them to be able to perform at their peak. Does that make sense? Right? So what's a practical example of that? Don't live far from the masjid, right? A beautiful example, don't live far from the masjid. That's a bottleneck now. How long does it take you to get to the masjid and X, Y, Z?
You know, at this point that you just made is actually very powerful. I've been reflecting on it a lot over the last month. So I moved to an area because the building was new and they were building a masjid. For some reason, the opening of the masjid got delayed by a year, right? Got delayed by a year. My masjid, I had to walk 12-13 minutes to it, 12-13 minutes back for an entire year. This masjid literally is a 2.5 minute walk, 3 minute walk from my house. And wallahi, akhi, the way it's made a difference to my life, I can't even explain. And I remember saying to my wife, I was like, you know what? From this point onwards, I'll never, ever, ever move to a place where the masjid isn't right next to me, because the amount of time I save going to and from the masjid, and the amount of times I'm able to go to the masjid, and the amount of extra time I'm able to spend at the masjid, just by it being 10 minutes closer.
Precisely.
Just being 10 minutes closer.
100%. And for example, if you have an office...
It's not even 3 minutes, it's 2 minutes. It's 2 minutes, yeah.
If you have an office, it's the exact same thing. You have to optimize your life. You have to optimize your environment to allow you to perform at your peak, right? How many, like, it's such, and this is what we actually do as well, right? We're going to make you go through your calendar for like at least the minimum 7 days is what we do. And you have to document what you do every hour. Okay. We split things into 3 categories. There's growth activities, shrink activities, and maintenance activities. Maintenance activities is things like showering, right? Things like, I don't know, making wudu, except these are all things that we have to do to maintain life, right? Spending time with family as well can actually fall into a growth activity, because again, that's part of the systems of life, the relationship part. It's something that engages in growth, right? But then there's shrink activities, such as commuting. Commuting is the worst thing an entrepreneur can do. Like, you're telling me I'm driving 2 hours to go here and here and here and here. Right? So again, that's something we'd aim to optimize. Shrink, there's loads of examples of shrink activities. Social media use, right? Fake knowledge, right? And this is why fake knowledge is when you're reading a book, but there's no consciousness in the book you're reading. I tell them it's better for you, genuinely speaking, to go to the swimming pool and just swim, right? Or go and have fun. And go out for dinner. It's actually better for you than to open that book, even though you know you're processing nothing, or being in front of your desk. How many times are we in front of our desks and we're working and nothing is being done? We know, or we're doing things that again our EA should be doing, right? Or anyone else in the company, but definitely not us. That is 100% situation where it's better for you to go out and replenish and actually recalibrate your mind than to actually work on that thing. So that's another area, again, we optimize. Now, this is done. The reason I'm giving it sort of all over is because we do it in a systematic process. We don't expect you to know what your bottleneck is, which is why we take you through sequences, loads of the questions doc. We make you watch the background content.
I love that it's data backed.
100%.
Right? Like people, like even for example, when it comes to that market research, we all know, right, that when trying to build a product and you get research and you're trying to get data from the market, don't ever take it face value. If people say, oh, I want this, or I like this feature, I don't like that feature, or I like this, I didn't like this, or I would prefer you to kind of do this, that, and we take it with a pinch of salt. People don't know what they're talking about. You just have to kind of throw things in there and try and read between the lines and find out which is behind what they're actually doing.
That you mentioned that, because that just brings what I was about to say so holistically about why this program is better than every single thing on the market.
Okay.
We apply feedback loops at the quickest rates, right? Any company you've seen that's been able to scale at the highest level, if you look at it in detail, they just optimize for feedback loops. Entrepreneurs are all focused on the wrong thing, to be honest with you. They need to optimize for feedback loops in your personal life, everything. The quicker you're able to take the outputs out of a system, understand them, process them, and put it back and affect the new inputs, the more success you have.
I'll give you an example of that, right? So, and I would love to see how we can put this in different parts of our life. In business, we have something called, people will be familiar, right? Like a KPI dashboard. So we created a KPI dashboard specifically for our marketing department, marketing and sales. So if in any given day or any given week, the sales are low, I just look at the dashboard and I know what the problem is. It's a second. Before we'd be hypothesizing, thinking, trying, testing. Was it this? Was it that? Like the numbers are there. The numbers are there. It doesn't lie. Do you know what I'm saying?
Do you think footballers would play with the same energy if there was no scoreboard right in front of them?
No, not
100% no.
Yeah, you're right.
Do you think that we as the viewers of the football games would enjoy the game much more? We'd have more attention and.
So, but show me how do I do this with regards to like my sleep, for example? Again,
that's why we give you aspects to measure, right? If you look at it, why has Whoop, for example, been so effective? It's giving you real-time data.
So here's my thing. Right. I've got Whoop. Okay. I got PT, and I've got a calorie counting app, and I've got these things. How do I bring it all together?
Perfect. And this is what we've built, the holistic system. So we look at every single area, right? So for example, your fitness, your this area of your life, it could be like spiritually, your deen, etc. And it's about, first of all, understanding, okay, so what is something that went wrong here? What went wrong? And how can we make sure we put that back in again? How many times, to basically break it down into a sentence, how many times do we do the same thing wrong and wrong and wrong again? And then ages down the line, we realize like, I've been doing that wrong my whole life. That's a problem, right? Because it took you like 3 months to realize that this is the thing that's destroying your life. By allowing, and we have the KPIs, we have everything to track these areas of your life, right? You're literally week to week, right? You're filling out a form, right, that allows you to engage in feedback loops. So an example of that question was, what was 5 important things I've done this week? All right. What are 5 of my greatest like L's this week? Like 5 things that went wrong. How often do we genuinely ask ourselves that question? I mean, in a proper sit down, like what are 5 things that went wrong today? We don't. But if we do that weekly basis, we're able to automatically correct our next week. Right? Because, the last question, what are 5 things that we intend to work in? So you've shaped your direction. But what did you shape your direction based on? Last week's losses and last week's wins. You took to what worked, and it's the same thing we do in business, right? We see what works, we double down on it, we see what didn't work, and we test it in a different way. It's the same thing we're doing with all the areas of your life. Perhaps now we can clearly assess, because we understand that as entrepreneurs, the only way for us to grow is if we're in the stretch zone. Now, what is the stretch zone? You have the comfort zone, you have the stretch zone, and then you have the stress zone, right? Stretch zone is where you are above regulation, right? So it's like, you're not regulating anymore, because regulating essentially means you're in that comfort zone. You're trying to be comfortable. You don't want to, exactly.
You're not going nowhere.
But this stretch zone is where like you can tell like there's work being here. You're being met with a little bit of resistance.
You're growing.
Right? Growth. But a lot of the times, entrepreneurs, we put ourselves in this stress zone, which is where we're trying to it's like from someone who's like 200 kilos trying to burn like 100 kilos in a week. What happens is you get burnt out and you go nowhere. Does that make sense? So we're making sure you're not on either side where you're comfortable and you're not on your stress zone. We're in this stretch. We're constantly growing, right? We're constantly replenishing as well from the growth. Because when you grow, before trying to grow again, you just want to optimize and make this the general level. I'll give you an example. It's silly to try to scale a company in 1 month from like making 10K a month to 100K a month, right? When we make 30K, okay, before we try to go from straight 30 to 100 now, how can we regulate this 30K first? And that's what you see a lot of entrepreneurs do, is because they put their businesses, they put themselves, their fitness in this stress zone, which is why, again, they're going in that constant loop, that constant cycle. They're not getting better. They're going again and again. They try something for a while. It's really, really working. So they try double down on it, but they haven't optimized for what? The fact that they are human beings. I'll give you an example. No matter how strong your mind is, if you decide, I want to run 100 kilometers today, you're going to fall tired. You fall to what? Your body's ability. So again, we need to make sure that our body is optimized as well to be able to align itself with our mind. Again, same thing. If you're lacking spiritually, there's going to be that thing that's burning you out the back of the mind. You're not praying your ibadah, you're not doing your ibadah properly, you're being late with your salawat, which is what, again, sabotaging you in business. If we haven't measured our iman, and by the way, people think you can't necessarily measure iman, in ways you can, right? Like you mentioned today as well, the more acts of the ibadah you do, the better you feel. The more acts of sin, the lower your iman drops, right? So by actually understanding, and a question I ask myself is, what's something between me and Allah strictly I did today?
Basically measuring acts that we know increase the iman
towards iman,
and also measuring acts that we know decrease the iman. Yeah, will be indicative of iman going up.
Precisely. Then we're able to by asking you how you feel in this realm of your life, and we give you're basically scoring yourself through, because first we give you the education to understand like this is what the realm of my life is. You're scoring yourself again by the questions we've given you. You're like, you know what, right now I'm like a 6 in this area of my life, but in that area of my life I'm a 7. So now we know the biggest bottleneck we need to spend time focusing on, and this is where just-in-time learning comes in. Right now, a lot of entrepreneurs read books, and I laugh when people ask me, what books do you recommend? For what? what's your current bottleneck? It's more effective to study something at a time in which you're struggling with it. For example, let's say I have a problem with marketing. At that time, it's important for me to go buy a marketing book, get marketing consultants, etc. It's more effective for me at that time than just buying any course. And, you know, I just want to buy a course. I just want to feel like I'm doing something, right? So you're actually understanding your current bottlenecks, and that's the most important thing. Entrepreneurs' biggest problem isn't sometimes solving their bottlenecks. A lot of the times it's identifying their bottlenecks in the first place, right? So again, we help you identify in what areas of your life is there entropy, things that are messy, and how can we fix and optimize them, right? People think the way they're living now, the way their lives are right now, is the only way their lives can be. That's not true, right? And I'm looking at my life from back in 2020, 2021, where it was just crazy, messy, to now, my life is very routine and structured, right? Which allows me, whenever I sit down at my desk, what we are able to build is insane. Actually going to give you a true fun fact about me. I don't engage in serious deep work after dhuhr. I don't need to, right? Again, you've done your ibadah in the morning, you've prayed your salah, you've sat in the masjid till what? Till sunrise, you've prayed your 2 rak'ah. What you're able to get between then and dhuhr is nuts. If you're able to what? Optimize every other area of your life to where you can just, when you sit down at your desk, you're just able to get things done.
On that note, guys, if you want to learn the skills of business yourself, then we have something for you as well. We've got something called the Righteous Rich Skills Academy. Just look at the type of money that these new entrepreneurs are making. These are guys that don't necessarily have a business that's like fully fledged, that's making 5, 10, 20K a month. So they don't necessarily qualify for us to come in and work and serve their business, like I mentioned at the beginning, but they benefited off what? Our just training and our live calls within our community. Just look on screen. This brother made 2K, this brother made 1K, then his second 1K, then his third 1K, all in the space of 2 weeks. This brother bought 1.5K sale. Guys, these brothers are making money. Allah Mabadi, right? Brother Munir here increases revenue by 50%. Allah Mabadi.
Been in Righteous to Rich for about a month. My revenue was down quite a bit. You know, at the time that I joined, I wasn't even able to pay my bills. And so by Allah's permission, I've been able to produce much better content, get much better at just generating leads. And so my revenue has gone up by 50%. So alhamdulillah, I appreciate you guys for helping me navigate this competitive market. I'm very optimistic that it's not just going to be 50%. Soon it's going to be 3x. Inshallah, bidnillah. So jazakallah khair.
This is just on the back of the Righteous Rich Skills Academy. So if you want to learn these skills, you guys can access this for just $99 a month. That's it. Click the link below. Skills Academy. Peace. So what's this desk thing? Because you mentioned it a few times. How does one set up their desk in a way to...
Okay, perfect. Number one, before you actually start a task, you should fully understand everything you need to get that task done. I refuse to even go to the toilet during a deep work session, which is why before I start a deep work session, I actually go use the toilet first, right? I make sure everything I need. For example, this is how I explain it. If I'm to build a house, is it more smart for me to buy all the materials at once, put them in the one place in the certain spaces they need to be, right? So I put the concrete with the what, with the flooring, etc. I don't know how, you know, building works, but you put everything together. Or what? Yeah, I don't. Mohammed, can you please send me this doc? I don't have this doc to get this piece of work done.
Yeah, have your materials, your tools, your resources, all that.
Every single thing should be done and structured. If you like your water a certain way, have it there. Don't, because the mind ultimately loves that sort of escape. Oh yeah, go. You want a coffee? You need a coffee right now. No, I have a set time to drink coffee every day. There's no running away, right? Everything should be structured and organized, right? In that fashion, where when you sit down to work, there is no misunderstandings. Everyone around you knows. For example, again, all the people that I deal with personally, they know, don't bother texting this guy before dhuhr, you're wasting your time, right? And if you send him a text before dhuhr, you make sure to text him again after dhuhr, because it's likely it's just fell to the bottom, right? Because I refuse to engage in any phone use as minimal as possible during that time, again, to allow my mind focus and clarity. So when I work, you see, this is my point. Do you know what you could build? Do you know how good your mind is if you give your mind the ability to get to that stage where it can actually create the things you need to create? A lot of the times we don't need these knowledge, we don't need sources of inspiration, and people who tell me I'm not creative whatsoever, no, you're just heavily stimulated. The mind naturally is created to create. Now, I'm not saying there's people who are more creative than others, but in the mind, in its natural state, is created to create. We come up with 1 million ideas a day, right? 80,000 negative thoughts we think in a day, right? 80,000 thoughts, sorry, we think in a day, and majority of them are perhaps negative, right? But the point is, we think of ideas, we think of things, the mind works just in its asl. So telling me I can't create or my brain isn't moving forward, it's not your brain. It's the outside areas of your life. And this is where we talk about cognitive performance. Unless you help your brain perform to the best of its ability, you're not going to be able to build what you want to in life. The brain has to be able to what? Perform to the best of its ability. Every system is actually dependent in ways on the mind, right? Your fitness, again, is dependent on the mind. Everything is dependent on the mind. Now, the mind also depends on other parts of your body, right? But the point is, if we can remove and improve your cognitive performance, which was the job of mind control in certain ways, right? Then every area of your life in certain ways starts to increase. I'm going to give you an example of one thing entrepreneurs lack in: consciousness. How many times have you just been able to sit there and like just recognize that this is my breathing right now? Have you ever thought about that? Like, just pay attention to your breathing.
But why would that be important?
Because you have to learn how to block out everything and just be in the moment. Otherwise, you can't have. That's the very people who tell me they struggle with attention. Attention comes from consciousness, being conscious, being able to give something you're conscious, right? Your full focus. If you're not able to like just lock out on everything right now and be able to focus on something in the moment, you can't silence those thoughts about business, those self-sabotaging beliefs about why.
Wait, you have to explain this to me because I don't understand that.
What specifically?
That as in
Consciousness.
Yeah.
Perfect. Do you feel your heartbeat day to day?
Yeah.
Like, do you realize it? Like, is that something?
Not all the time, but I mean, some days will go by I won't even pay attention to it.
100%. And most days we don't pay attention to our heartbeat.
Yeah.
So there's things that are happening in our life that we don't realize just because naturally that's how the human beings, we habitualize to things and we don't pay attention to them. It's important to engage in acts of consciousness, things that actually bring your focus back to where you need them to focus on.
Okay.
By paying attention to my heart, right? Sometimes just being able to stop and pay attention to my heart, for example, in a moment, that allows me, whenever I want to pay attention to a book, I'm training this muscle.
I see what you mean. You're training
Precisely.
focus.
You're training focus and specifically consciousness. You can focus on something but still not get anything out of it. How many times have you focused on your computer but none of the information is being processed?
So when you say conscious, do you mean awareness? Like
awareness and attention.
And attention.
You're able to be aware of what's happening around you. Like, for example,
does it work for people with ADHD?
Again, it's the same thing, right? All of these things. Now, different people have different struggles with different things. So it might be ADHD people have particularly a more difficult time, with focus and awareness and consciousness. Doesn't mean they can't fix it, right? Again, little practices. Again, for example, when you're in the cold shower, what are you always told to focus on? Your breathing. You know why? You actually sort of ignore the pain in some ways. The pain becomes slightly silenced, right? You know, for example, before a pickpocketer steals something from you know what they do?
Distracts you.
They touch you in other ways. Meaning what? You've reduced the feeling in that way. When you're able to narrow down and be aware of certain things, like for example, if I told you how many black cars are passing by, what does your mind automatically do? It removes all the white cars. It's not processing the white, the orange, the yellow cars. You can't, your mind is just focused on this one thing. We have to train our ability as entrepreneurs because otherwise, how are you meant to build? There's too many things going on in our lives. We have to be able to give focus.
Dude, let me try it right now because you see me, my brain doesn't switch off. And I feel like I'm in a constant state of anxiety. Even if it's minimal. It's always because of all the stuff that's going on. As you're speaking, it's even giving me anxiety because I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. Let me try. So I'm just supposed to block out everything.
You know, first, what I like, just feel the heartbeat a little bit. Just pay attention to your heart.
Let's close my eyes or... Let me close it. Let me try this. Go on, let's see what's up. I'm not soupy, guys.
Then next, just your breathing. And that's why one of the reasons You're not supposed to exert loads of effort before going to salah. It's actually makruh, right? To engage in high activities or high energy activities before going to salah. Because again, when we should come, and it's helped even in terms of ibadah. A lot of people ask to do dhikr, it's just on the tongue, blah, 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 blah. When you're able to actually ignore everything, block out everything, focus in the moment, you achieve more from that thing.
It's actually very deep, bro, because Ibn Qayyim, I was reading from his Kitab al-Fawaid. That was actually deep, by the way. I felt very relaxed and focused. It's actually weird. I feel more focused right now on the discussion. Yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting. As I was trying to feel for my heartbeat, I was like, I don't think I ever did this in my life, you know. It's even mad. Like as I was doing, I was thinking, have I been that ungrateful to never even just one day just deep my heartbeat? Ibn Qayyim says something deep with what you just said. I think there's a overlap. He actually mentions before you start any act of worship, he says get your heart right. He said before you start doing dhikr, before you start praying salah, reading Quran, he says start placing your heart in khushu prior.
Precisely.
So if you go into subhanallah, 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 which means that, you know, perfection is to Allah, glory to Allah, you're freeing Allah Azza from any deficiencies. Or let me say, alhamdulillah, it's easy for people to understand who may not know the intricacies. All praise and thanks belongs to Allah. Is that get your heart in a thankful state. Start praising Allah with your heart before you do it on your tongue. Because that will make it, when it comes on your tongue, more effective.
Everything is useless if you're not conscious while doing it. You know? And this is why
that's why also the Prophet said not to run to the masjid.
Precisely. We're supposed to, anything we do, it's the same thing. Like before I actually do deep work, I've actually have a certain period, there's like a gap where I just have to mentally ready myself from what I'm about to go into. It's just to what I'm about to do. You'll see so much more effectiveness.
It actually happened to me the other day. I went into salah. I was praying my witr. And the time was running out, and I noticed I rushed in. As I rushed it, and I went into the salah, as in I rushed entering because the time was running out. I was like, I didn't feel comfortable. I felt the need to want to touch my beard. I felt like there was still some water on my arm, and I just felt like I just got into it.
Precisely.
Yeah.
100%. And that's why even before we work, we need to work our minds into the work we're about.
So how do you do that? I come to my desk.
So again, it's even before you're at your desk, right? It's it's coming to the mentality. And this is why intention is the first thing of everything, right? It's about understanding what exactly am I trying to do in this deep work session? That's the question I always ask myself. Okay, I'm about to sit down, get work done. What is the goal? Same thing, right before salah, it's what is the point? Okay, this is salah al-asr. Praying, I have to do my ibadah. Afterwards, inshallah, I'm supposed to sit down and do my adhkar. Far more intentional.
Right, so you're saying do things with more intent, with more consciousness.
Do you understand? Yeah. And then you're able to, you'll see the difference in what quality of what you produce. Does that make sense? If we came here today and you told me, Fawaz, on this podcast, we're going to be talking about chocolate. And then all of a sudden you'd be if I'm performing, I've readied my mind to talk about chocolate. Okay. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm thinking about digestive biscuits.
I'm trying to understand the protocol here. So I've come to my desk in the morning, just close my eyes and check my
it's the thought, you know? It's what do I want to get done?
Oh, to ask the question.
Yeah, actually ask. What am I trying to get done here? How is it that we just get our desk and that's, of course, you're going to engage in work that is absolutely ineffective, right? You haven't set the intention for yourself as to why. That's why, again, majority of the times you make a mistake in salah, it's because why? Wasn't fully conscious. Maybe you rushed in, now you put in an extra rak'ah, if you're able to, you actually realize every rak'ah, it's your you understand, I'm on 2, I'm on 3, I'm on 4, right? So it's all to do with what consciousness. You need to try to be if I'm and that's why, for example, entrepreneurs, they have problems winding down when it comes to family, etc. It's I'm going to go spend time with my family. It's an act of ibadah. That's the point. That's why I'm doing this.
So How is this different to all the meditation stuff people talk about? Because that
meditation isn't necessarily a problem. It's the way in which they preach. You know what I'm saying? That's where it becomes an issue. Meditation in itself, right? If you look at it, meditation in itself, right? It's actually just paying attention to the thoughts of the mind, which we should do as Muslims anyway. Right, we should reflect.
But
we should think
in an act of worship.
Like it's worship. This is how I get closer to, I don't know, the skies or the universe. All nonsense, right? But it's like and it's also meditating. You're bringing attention to what, to yourself, to what you're doing right now, and that's why
I think as Muslims should avoid that word, because
that's why I don't use it. I don't like it at all whatsoever because of the luggage that comes with it.
Hinduism,
right?
Buddhism, whatever.
Precisely. Yeah. Even for example, like, look, when they tell you, like, appreciate the creation of Allah, you actually have to be conscious to appreciate. The reason why a lot of us are so ungrateful is because we are not aware of what's around us. If we're truly aware, right, then we would be far more grateful to Allah because we see more things. We're able to, and that's why, like, people who have high levels of consciousness, you see them, they actually thank people a lot for things, or they notice the small things people do for them, or even people's, like, they can read in a room when someone doesn't feel good today.
You know, it's actually, I think it's Abu Dharr, he said 1 hour of pondering over Allah's creation, and pondering, I think, is unrestricted, so it could be over your own sins or whatever have you, is equal to like 1,000 years of worship or something like that, something along the lines. So it's actually an act of worship to ponder and reflect, to better yourself for the sake of Allah.
Yeah, like I said, people go into extremism with it. That's where the problem comes. But as Muslims, 100%, we need to, like, because you have to understand, our lives are so fast paced these days, man.
To slow things down.
So you never ever enjoy the sweetness. You know, I genuinely don't do anything when I'm eating. I don't like to. I like to watch things when I'm just eat. Just respect the food is how I phrase it. Just respect the food.
I get bored.
That's important. Why do we always have to be stimulated? Do you not think that's a problem? That's why we struggle, because again, it has to be trained. Yeah, first you're gonna get bored. You know, things are gonna happen, but that's good.
So explain to me,
because you're in the moment.
No, as in, okay, so I'm not trying to question. I'm trying to understand. Right? If there's like a different school of thought or something. So, Imam Nawawi rahimahullah, this is what I was cultivated on. His sister used to crush the food for him to put it in his mouth, so he didn't have to waste time. So his sister used to feed him, so he didn't have to spend time eating, and he would carry on reading. Imam Ibn Aqil used to get his food crushed so that he would spend less time chewing, so he could basically eat it faster and get back to studying. And by the way, this is not from necessarily Quran Sunnah. Just because a scholar did something doesn't mean, I'm just trying to understand, because I've heard in the past many scholars wouldn't sleep at night and kada wa kada, and there are mashayikh that I've met who don't sleep much at night are also very, very unwell. Do you know what I'm saying? So I've heard these things and I come to learn that not necessarily always a good thing. Do you know what I'm saying? But I'm saying that Imam Nawawi of, like, I'm not trying to waste time while I eat is what I grew up on.
Okay, but how much more time? You see, I hear that, but then when people talk to me about, like, yeah, the reason I rush that is because I'm not trying to waste time, then I look at other aspects of their lives and they've been wasting time the whole time, right? So then it's like, okay, show me your screen time. Okay, so why are we rushing food but not rushing social media use, right? So it's like, I look, there's nothing I want to say in that aspect of, like, you know, the ulama and the mashayikh, because I believe they had a certain super important purpose that they had to almost ignore every other their lives to just fulfill that important purpose, right?
These things are not, again, Quran Sunnah necessarily. So,
yeah. So that's what I'm saying, like, there was a main objective there.
The person would sleep, the person would eat.
Precisely.
When I say that, it's not to say just because the sheikh did it is right. I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, 100%. But even when you look at the hadith of the Prophet, what does he say? فَإِنَّ لِجَسَدَكَ عَلَيْكَ حَقٍّ. Even your body has a right over you, right? So from the sayings of the Prophet, it's not beneficial to destroy your body while trying to what? Do something. And where does this hadith come from? When he was, you know, speaking to, I believe it was the son of Amr bin As, right? And he's telling him, Yani, I sleep at night, all right? I break my fast. You know, I have wives, etc. So it's, the point is,
there's a group of Sahaba that came to the wives of Prophet.
Yeah, there's all areas of what? Of lives, right? So by trying to destroy or jump fast over one area of life, naturally there's going to be bottlenecks, right? Sometimes, and this is what you'll notice, as people who make really important decisions, such as entrepreneurs, we need to take the time to what? To actually like cool off. It's the same thing. Like, the more you cut with a knife, the less sharp it becomes. Consciousness is giving your mind the ability to what? Resharpen itself.
Oh, it makes sense, because one of the things that I really struggled with a few months ago, and it kind of lasted for maybe like almost a month, man, is brain fog.
Yeah. It's common.
Yeah, just not. I could wake up in the morning and I just couldn't perform properly because my mind's like, it's not at full clarity.
Because we don't give our brains time to like calm down in between acts.
Yeah.
We're always back to back. Get this thing done. My calendar's booked for just what I always tell people is just sometimes just put 10, 15 minutes in between. Just chill. You actually go like there's times.
What if the way I chose by reading?
It's good, but it's not good. You have to learn to just replenish, right? Reading, if you're reading properly, you're still engaging. By the way, reading is my form of escapism now. I don't optimize for social media. Whenever life gets hard, I just want to open a book, right? But you still, it's a form of escapism. Address what it is you're trying to escape from in the first place, right? So that's why I always ask myself, but is it that I'm trying to read this book to get knowledge, or am I running away from something? Am I running away from emotion, a certain responsibility that I need to do? Okay, let me just focus on that thing.
I wouldn't even lie. Like, reading got to a point where it's shahwa for me now. Like, I enjoy
100%.
Yeah, it's a desire. Like, of course you read because you're like, I need to learn this, I need to study this. But then on a day-to-day, like, as in, I don't know. I don't know if I'd call it escapism. Like, I enjoy it.
Yeah,
I want to read more than I want to talk to
people.
Period.
And that's fine, right? I'll give you an example, right? Let's say, for example, life gets really hard. Something happens. You have a calamity in one area of your life, right? When a'udhu billah. And you just pick out your book. That's reading isn't productive then.
Okay,
right?
at the time,
that's escaping something that we need to actually maybe think about this issue. But now there is conditions to that. I believe 100% not focusing on the issue overly too much and doing other things that what in that time, right? Why? Because it actually gives the brain clarity to what? Think about it. The thing again in a better sense, right? It was this sort of the example Mahdi used the last day where you can't see the problem when it's right in front of you. Sometimes when you take it away. But with reading, if you read properly, again, reading is a form of learning. You're still feeding information into the brain. Sometimes just let the brain chill. Just let it come.
What does that look like?
Sit down. Sit down.
Forgive me, because I genuinely don't.
This is the problem. Everyone, like people, why is it that we have to do things back to back, right? You know why they had so much more better focus than us? Because there was less means of stimulation,
Okay, one second.
interference.
I sit down and do what though?
Just chill out. Dhikr, for example, right? Again, you're calm. You're focusing the mind on your thoughts. You're thinking over the things that Allah has given you. Just calming down, right? When was the last time people who do dhikr every day, right? You know, I asked them. All right. Did you actually ponder on the meanings of the words you're saying? Right? When we're saying what? La ilaha illallah. Subhanaka inni kuntu minadh dhalimin, for example. What are you saying? Right? Or when you're saying Subhanallah bihamdi, Subhanallah bihamdi. You're not conscious. Your brain is in, I have to do this task when I'm done the dhikr and X, Y, Z. And the same thing in business. Even, wallahi, sometimes, and this is where I noticed there was a problem with my consciousness at the time. I'm in meetings with individuals, they're saying something to me and I'm listening, but I don't hear anything. Right? It's like, yeah, Fawaz, we need to get this sorted. I'm like, yeah, I don't hear anything.
I hear that, but I don't understand what I should be doing in the time where I'm chilling.
Why is it a problem to do nothing? Why? I want to understand. Why is it a problem to do nothing? Nothing.
As in, you want me to just sit like this?
Sit down and just chill. I want you to try it. Go on your balcony, for example, right? Just look into space. Naturally, your brain will start to what? Be like, this thing matters to you. You care about this thing. You learn more about yourself. You actually become more aware in this time. You know what?
Sing, go and think. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, but don't say, I want to think about X, Y, Z. Your mind will naturally cough up things to you. All right? So it's actually super beneficial, right? I've sat on my balcony. It's like, when was the last time you done something good for your mum? Snap.
So you're saying you okay, I feel like I'm just starting to understand. So is it that you stop stimulating your mind. So you give your mind a
To
chance
listen to my subconscious mind.
right.
Precisely.
It's like with all the with all the stimuli, the mind is drowning, and you basically just let it float to the top.
The things that matter. The things that are important.
Let's talk about this.
Just why do we have that? You know what? The fact that it takes so long, but it's not just you, by the way, it takes so long for people to understand the importance of like just being conscious is why we improve so slow on a day-to-day basis. Because we're never actually thinking of like, I need to improve this. It's always like, I think this is what I need to improve. I want you to try it for a week. Really and truly. Like just
You know, I
chill out.
I read it in a book from one guy. I actually did it once. I never did it again.
You know why we don't do it, by the way? It actually goes back to something deep. We're scared.
No, I was scared. I got bored. Because what the guy said was, he said, but he said it different to what you said. He said, thoughts that come, he said, just try to push them away. Like his point was, try to remain in stage of emptiness. I was like, this is boring.
No,
but you're saying engage with your thoughts.
Understand, like, this thing I'm trying to build, and this is why, like I say, shaitan, it fools us a lot because we're always on go mode. So sometimes we don't realize that some things we're trying to while trying to build certain things we've lacked in certain other elements of our lives.
I definitely do see where you're coming now, because I don't think I actively go to do nothing, right, or to chill, which I'm gonna give it a go. But there are some activities that I do. For example, I'll go and to the pool, right, or I'll go, for example, to I'll go chill in a spa. And although I'm doing things, but I'm doing things that are less stimulating to the brain. And even at that level is where my ideas and my creativity and everything comes. So I can only imagine if I completely eradicate.
I don't like when barbers talk to me, for example. I genuinely
Barbers?
don't like it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, likewise.
I prefer to like just cut my hair and just because again this
And the
gives
cab
me an
driver.
opportunity.
And the
Yes, especially like, even when I get into a journey, sometimes you know what I do? I just switch off my phone. I put it to the left. I just want to be aware right now. I just want to see what's going on, right? In my mind, like what is it? And so many of those times, things that you have not paid attention to, you say, you know what? I used to really like doing that. I used to really enjoy doing that. Oh, that's where this problem in my life comes from. You will solve so much more.
You know what I believe you, Akhi, is because you know these concepts a lot of that you're talking about. You know, like for example, was it skills minus interference equals performance?
Potential minus interference.
Potential minus.
performance.
So I remember the first time you said it to me, you actually blew my mind. I was like, wait, is that like a quote, or did you like come up with that yourself? And you mentioned that was as a framework that you came up with yourself, Alarm Badik.
With, of course, outside knowledge.
Of course. Of course. Of course. We're always synthesizing, right? But to be able to place it in that way, and here's the thing, I also came across a quote in a book that I was reading where it said that, you know, if you want your speech to be powerful, then gather your thoughts prior to speaking, i.e. really think about what you want to say. So, you know, these one-liners that you mentioned, these concepts and these examples and these analogies, that can only come from deep thought. It can't come without actually spending time mulling it over in your brain. So, and the fact is that you've done it whilst being Alarm Badik, you know, considerably young compared to people that maybe take them 10 years to come up with some of these concepts. So I guess it does show the proof is in the pudding. That's what I'm trying to say.
100%. And what I want you to understand as well, and I think the audience as well need to understand is, like, just like anything, your brain gets tired, right? And it's not enough to just go put it to sleep. Just let it like slow down. You know, this is why, you know, one of the most powerful things I've done in my life is start to reflect on my day at Asr time. You know why this has been so powerful? From Fajr to Asr, I count it as one day. All right. And from Asr to Isha is another day. when I stop at Asr, I give my chance to have a second day, because I'm like, you know what, from Fajr to now, you haven't performed the best, or maybe you get a chance, because how many times at night time do we realize like, you have lacked today, I've done nothing. So now it's tomorrow morning where majority of it gets corrected. But if you stop, and what did I do? I linked it with my evening adhkar. So I finish my evening adhkar and I think, okay, how have I performed?
When the deeds are presented to Allah, Fajr and Asr.
Precisely, right? So it's like, how do I think, and how did I perform right now from Fajr to Asr? Okay, and based off of that, we engage in a direct feedback loop to affect the performance from now, Asr to Isha. Right?
So you, because most people would only think about their day at the end.
Even.
Right. But you force yourself to consider it in the middle so that you can salvage whatever's left. I love that.
100%. Because, and this was a benefit as well I took from the mashayikh, like, because they're always in constant reflection of their deeds, what they're doing, etc., it allows them to be able to, at a day they've realized like, what's one thing you haven't done that's a secret between you and, okay, let me donate charity quickly, let me call up a friend and give him nasiha, or ask a question that maybe, you know, I'll go through my phone and see, and maybe somebody asks me a question, I can benefit him. You're able to change something before tomorrow. Because the problem with leaving things till tomorrow, you might feel a bit differently tomorrow. A text message might come in the morning, and again, you're thrown off.
Oh, it's deep. Salaf used to do this, man. Ibrahim al-Nakha'i, rahmallah, he would cry, man, to his wife at Asr time. She would say, why are you crying? Saying, I'm crying because of what I've sent forth to Allah. The angels are going with my deeds. Like, I don't know if I've sent anything off, because they're being presented at Asr time. So it's actually from the deen to be conscious at those times.
You see, if we understood the power of like being more conscious, I think we'd probably block a lot of people, and we'd probably like move to like D&D mode permanently.
I am actually, you know, today I'm not, because on days when I expect phone calls, but as a default, as an absolute default, I'm on do not disturb all the time.
Yeah, and that's the thing, when you plus add that onto like just giving you know what, why people are unable to, by the way, perform at high levels today, it's because of the amount of stimulation. There's so many things going on, he doesn't even know what he cares about. You know, sometimes I speak to brothers, right, and when they struggle to like put together what's important to them right now, it's because look how often he picks up his phone. He's always stimulated. Right? I've been with certain brothers, like there's no 10 minutes that pass unless they pick up their phone. Yeah, but actually a message might come in, and so what? Right? Are you going to spend your life, yani, on your phone waiting for that one message that comes in saying, Fawaz, I really need you, there's an emergency? Is that how to live life? Right? How am I supposed to build the next 7-8 figure business when I can't even pay attention to what matters, to my thoughts? We have so much inside us that if we just took time to think, it changed everything. And this is how, honestly, the kuffar have gotten to us, right? They're always distracting us, something new on the news, something new in life. You never stop to think like, this life is dead. I can't just drink on Fridays and weekends. And do you understand? Because when you start to think those things, you become a lot more depressed. Because now, so what do? They don't give their minds room to be conscious. Always stimulating with something. Consciousness is what allows you to improve so fast. Because when you're conscious, you're aware, you do a lot less silly things day to day, right? So it's like majority of our sins, a majority of the time, it doesn't come from a place where intentionally we lost ourselves for a second.
Ghafla, heedless. It's called heedless,
yeah,
right?
Ghafla. We lost ourselves for a second. Had we been able to be more conscious and aware, I would have never done that. I remember, subhanAllah, one time, like, you know, and I really want to say this because, you know, subhanAllah, may Allah forgive me, but, you know, I was just chilling. One of my landladies came, and, you know, I was on my phone when she was talking to me, and I was trying to pick up, yani, a couple of things, and and she puts her hands out, and I'm like, yeah. And I walk into my apartment, I'm like, what the flip did I just do? And shake the woman's, you know what I'm saying?
You were paying attention.
I was totally gone. I was unaware. My mind was in like a million different places. Right? Which is why, again, it's good. Wherever you do, be far more conscious. You'll make a lot less mistakes in what you do. right? Day to day, the more conscious you are, the less mistakes you make, and the more stern you actually become. And this is what I believe. And from asking my sheikh as well, was meant, hold yourself to account before you're held to account, and check your deeds before your deeds are checked. It's about being conscious. You have to be more wary of what's going on around you. Where the people around you. Like the key and the power here, by the way, it's not like we just tell people to throw themselves into reflection, and because shaitan will very be easy, but there's certain protocols that we have and certain questions you need to ask yourself as well at times to lead the thoughts. Like, what genuinely, like, again, a question I told you I asked myself is like, what kind of leader have I, like, have I led the people, like my team of justice today? All right, ask me again to refocus back on the things that matter. My parents, what have I done? Have I spoke to them today? Because we get lost. As entrepreneurs, we can't take care of every area of our lives if we're not in touch with every area of our lives. Does that make sense? Which is why, now, I know this podcast ended up being about consciousness, but that's why it's a key section, right? It's just one module. It's still a key module.
Oh, it's just one module?
Yeah. We just, because you didn't understand it, right? So we had to go into a little bit deeper. But that's one way we look at things in terms of like your cognitive, your spiritual performance as well, and your cognitive performance, because that's important.
No, I think this is very helpful for me personally, because, like I said, my mind doesn't switch off, and I do feel a lot of the times, man, that you know, you said interference is, it's like, imagine the interference is internal, like your brain is interfering with you. It's deep. It's deep.
And that's why as well, it's powerful to remove yourself out of things that you don't need to be in, because it leaves less areas for the mind to wander.
So now this is why you don't want to think about what to eat, what to wear. You don't want to waste time on those things. Gone full circle.
I don't have time. Like, my mind should just be focused on what? Building the biggest performance center for Muslim entrepreneurs every day, and getting right with Allah and taking care of my family. I don't care like what side of the table. Like, what side of the table do you want to be on? Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't like to make decisions that are unnecessary or low leverage for me. It doesn't matter to me. Yeah. Does that make sense? So it's why I prefer to wear similar, like I literally go through like a set of thobes. Like now I wear different colors a day, but it's like, this is the one for today to just, and then I have a cycle, it gets slapped in the machine. The ones that come out, there's no, should I wear this or should I, no, just give the mind some clarity. That's why, again, I don't like responding personally to emails and messages, right? Because again, I have to think, you know, even what I make like my EA do, everything has to be straight away optimized. Like, if you know, this is the podcast room, give me the directions to the podcast room. Tell me what way, when I enter the apartment, what way, like when I enter the building, who I need to speak to, where I need to go, because I need to just have clarity. Clarity is the superpower of an entrepreneur. It's his weapon. It's his weapon, clarity. And that's what we optimize for. The reason a lot of times we don't have clarity, it's because, like, for example, if you know the route to somewhere, if you're going somewhere and you know the route there, you have clarity. As entrepreneurs, there's this in the way and there's that in the way. So that's why we try to optimize every system. You understand every system. That's why people ask me, like, Fawaz, just work on me. I don't want to learn. Like, just work the magic on me. All right? But it's not going to work. You need to understand your mind to a certain degree. Now, it's not like I'm trying to make you like a philosopher in the mind or like a neuroscientist, but you need to understand where Islam comes in with this. You need to understand where, you know, performance comes. You need to understand to a certain degree your physiology, your body, right? By understanding all of those things, there's less gaps. Does that make sense? I'll give you a perfect example. I've seen so many times with brothers when it comes to, like, they haven't yet seen the correlation between their physical health and their business. And it baffles me, right? Now, I'm not telling you to be like, you know, wham or be a big, massive guy. That's not what it's about. Like, even me, for example, like I engage in very like simple exercises to optimize for certain things, right? I go running. I do like 5K roughly every 2 days, right? 5 kilometers. And then again, I lift weights to maintain a certain muscle mass. My goal isn't to be be wham. No, but it's like I understand that by pushing the realms of my physical performance, again, that has a spillover effect. The better my business performance becomes, everything becomes, I'm optimizing, right? Again, learning. Development is a crucial part in what we teach. You have to develop yourself, because every stage you try to get to, it's going to be blocked by a level of what? You can't sustain this, right? You're only as good as your legs. The table is only as good as the legs, and you're only as good as your performance and your knowledge in fields, which is why we see what matters when it matters. And that's the holistic process we try to take entrepreneurs through, right?
The in-time learning.
Yes, just-in-time learning.
Just-in-time learning.
You're only learning something. And which is why, although we have all the modules set out, we go through the basics. The reason why they need to answer these set of questions and then we go through is because I'm not just hopping on a call with you and teaching. That's low leverage for me and for you. Rather, we're learning and we're looking at holistically what you need to understand fully at this point and how to resolve that area of your life that's currently broken, that's bottlenecked right now, before we optimize the next one, And it's look, everything has to continue being optimized as you continue to grow, right? A pipe that could only handle what? Water coming out at the speed of 10 kilometers per hour. When you want to now add a new operation, you have to now what? Naturally upgrade that pump to be able to handle 20 kilometers per hour, right? So everything has to slowly be optimized as you grow in certain areas of your life. The optimization that you need for your family, right? And that's why I don't work with, for example, like, average human beings, right? Because they don't need as much optimization because they don't have a huge water load running through their pipes, as I like to say, all right? But entrepreneurs, 6 and 7 on the 7-8 figure end, there is so much that we have to optimize if we want to scale, right? And that's the thing. It's not like we ignore business as well. We view the theory of constraints, help you understand it in business and help you understand that there's certain things to fix at certain times, right? But again, you understand from being a business mentor, from teaching these guys how to scale their companies, right? You understand that the worst thing they can do is focus on a bottleneck that's not even their current biggest one. It's the same thing in your life. How low leverage for you to put all of your energy in business rather than realizing that business isn't what's stopping you right now. Perhaps it's your physical health. Perhaps it's your mental, your cognitive performance, right? Perhaps it's your spiritual performance. And that's why, for example, like I hated mentoring business sometimes, to be honest with you. I have to sit here and mentor a guy on a specific area that I know isn't his biggest bottleneck right now.
Yeah, we have this conversation all the time. Guys that come to Righteous and Rich, it's like, bro, your issue is not even the marketing. It's your mindset. It's, your pessimism. It's the fact that you don't know how to give X amount of time to the business every day. If you just gave an extra hour every day, you would be able to solve this problem. It's usually not even business related. And
that's why routine is so important, right? When you have a routine, you put yourself through. And again, that's why, I like my days to try to go as relatively similar as possible, right? Again, less load, less interference, less. Do you know how much I hate being stuck? Like, I hate driving, first of all. Like, it depends. In my replenishing times, I love driving. But just day to day, I hate driving because I'm stuck behind the seat and traffic, and this is interference, this is entropy, right? So again, minimizing that as much as possible. When we had a house manager and it done an insane amount for us. Right? I don't have to worry about my phone being ironed and, being in the right place. And look, in the beginning, it's tough. Yeah. In the beginning, it's tough because you have to explain to someone how I like everything. But once you get through that phase and that person understands, just do what matters. How low leverage would it be for you to be like plugging in this and go swim, go on a jog, go breathe. Go chill on your back, go read, but just don't be plugging in and cleaning this and washing this. Like, does that make sense? Now, sometimes we do that honestly, sometimes I enjoy ironing, right? Because to me, that's a means of replenishment. But I don't iron to iron my clothes, I iron to replenish. Do you get what I'm saying? Okay. So when you have these certain activities that maybe you enjoy doing, you don't do them to maintain those things, you do them to replenish. It's not that I need to iron. You don't do it day to day. Yeah. It's not like, I have to do this. I only do it when I want to and when it's time for it to be done. Does that make sense? Which is why people tell me, yeah, but for us, I enjoy cooking. It really helps my mind. But day to day, is it that you're cooking because it helps your mind or because you need to eat? Okay, so we need to just allow you to cook on the days where it's actually what?
Helping your mind.
replenishing, calming your mind down. Does that make sense? Don't do things that don't help your performance, that don't drive you. Does that make sense? Otherwise, the things that we love later become things we hate. Such as, again, family times, when it's not organized, and etc. When we put certain bottlenecks around it, we start to hate. But when we're able to optimize all the areas of our life, we can enjoy time with our family, for example. We can enjoy certain things. Again, it's being able to reach that level of consciousness where you're slowed down. Right? You're just living in the moment. And that way, you become so much more thankful of things, honestly. Life isn't that bad, I always say. It's just the lens we choose to look at it through. You know, I struggle to actually think of the last time I felt like so pessimistic and horrible about life. No, because, you know, upon reflection, I just understand the game. Bad things happen that you later understand to be good things that help other things become better in the future. It's just an ongoing cycle. So whenever I go for a difficulty, it's like, yeah, this is dead. But in the future, I'm going to say this was amazing. And that thing that was amazing is going to allow for something fantastic to happen in my life. Because of reflection, I enjoy the problem phase now. Because of reflection, I know the things that ruin my performance. Because of reflection, I know what is right for me and what is wrong for me. Through Allah's fadl, being able to reflect gives you clarity on where you want to go with this whole life thing, where your current bottlenecks are. Clarity. We're so stimulated. You know, I've sat down with brothers and discussed their vision, and wallahi, it's not even his. It's not even his. He just watches so much that he's like, yeah, bro, I want this guy, and I want this. And like, you speak to him, and it's like, that's not even his, right? So when you're able to apply feedback loops at the quickest level from reflecting, and that's why I say experience doesn't mean anything. Yeah, I'm tired of listening to people talk about experience. Experience means nothing. I've met 25-year-olds that are more better in life than 50-year-olds. They have twice the experience, but they didn't reflect on what the situations they went through and then let that affect their next day. Does that make sense? Think of how quickly this person's lens. One person who week to week, he's engaging in feedback loops, and another person who's engaging in feedback loops on a monthly basis. It takes him a whole month to change something. One guy does it day to day. And that's why we believe in tracking. Why is it that entrepreneurs know the ROAS to the cent, but they don't know their personal performance bottlenecks to like the dots? They don't know their sleep, where they're lacking in sleep, or how much good energy they've got, or what they put into they don't know these things to the dot. Why? We understand that. When I speak to you and I'm like, what is the importance of tracking in business? You tell me it allows you to what? Change things lifetime. It allows you to see what's working, what's not working. Okay, so how about your personal life? Is the rules suddenly different when it comes to your personal life and tracking? It's not. So this is why we need to engage in what? Becoming more, like, we need to achieve deeper insight into ourselves and into our lives. I've always said, like, you can't just come here, expect to do this, that, and the next, and that. We need to understand what we're doing, what we're trying to build, what matters to us, what makes me happy, what makes me sad. How many times do we get angry over the same things again and again? Have you ever thought why that thing makes you angry? Where does that emotion even come from? When I become distracted and I can't focus on my work, stop saying, yeah. So every time I'm not focused on my work, I'm just going to do this. Let's understand why that lack of focus comes from in the first place. That's more effective than what? Just solving it every time. We need to understand what's the root cause and effect relationship. I don't try to solve any effects on my life without first understanding the cause. It's a waste of time. All right? And to drag that to like a live situation, right? Like, listen, it's like, for example, my car keeps dying on me, and what? I just keep getting someone to come recharge the battery. That's a solution, but that's not the solution. The real cause is not just because the battery is falling. This battery is dead. It needs to go. That stops me from doing. So entrepreneurs think it's so high leverage. Yeah, I'm solving it every day. Somebody's coming in and charging up my batteries. No, you fool. You need to change the battery. Change the battery, then you don't have to optimize for somebody coming in every day to solve it. Can you see how we bother ourselves with things that we shouldn't bother ourselves with because we haven't went to the root cause, right? It's not, oh, this tree keeps bringing me weeds, for example, right? It's like, okay, what tree is this? Is this the right tree for this society, for my environment? No, so let's take out the tree. I don't have time to cut it into shape and make sure it doesn't. No, that's not the right tree. I would just rather get a tree that does what I needed to in the garden rather than one that does these extra things. Does that make sense? And that's the paradigm we look at it from.
Barakallah feet, man. Well, you give me a lot to think about. And already, even just this last point that you just mentioned about, like, I was just thinking, as you were saying, I was just thinking and applying it to business. Like, even us, there's some things that I'm like, wait, are we just charging the battery? Oh, I think we need to change the battery there. Which means, I think someone's going to get sacked after this.
It's the game.
I think someone's going to get it. But, no, or let's see. But you're right, man. It's these frames. I can see one of the things that you help people do here is ask the right questions. I read a quote many years ago. The brain will give you the answer that you need as long as you give it the right question. Like, you've been living for decades, absorbing all of this information. You have a lot of stuff in your brain. It's just that you need to ask the right question. Like, a question is like a key. The right key opens the right door. If you ask the right question, the brain will give you the right answer.
It's nothing new. And this is really what I want to tell entrepreneurs. Like, I want them to understand it's already inside you a lot of the times.
Yeah.
You just haven't solved for it. It's already inside you. You're unaware of how to bring it out. You know why this is such a passion project for me? There's nothing more painful than looking at somebody and saying, you could have done X, Y, Z.
Oof.
Like, you could have been this. Like, like, it burns you. Even like in my friend group sometimes, right?
I think it was more painful that is for a guy to look himself in the mirror.
Yeah.
And the thing is, people will. It might be 10, 20, 30 years from now, but that's what you call, I think that's what you call a midlife crisis, bro.
Of course. And you know what the worst part of that is? Majority of times we do nothing about it. And that's, look, I'll be honest with you, changing yourself, yeah, it is scary. It is tough. And I'll explain why that is. Because this means you have to live up to certain truths. And you know what? The first thing all of my clients say, just to be honest with you guys, is, yeah, I'm not what I thought I was. That's like a common ongoing statement. My life isn't as good as I thought it was. Or I haven't been performing as good as I thought I was. Because now we make you face truths you've been
Avoiding.
You've been avoiding.
Wow. So what am I denying? I'm going to get to the bottom of that with you, inshallah.
I can't wait to send you the list of questions. And as you're answering them, it's going to be like, even when, again, after obviously over my material we're reviewing, I was going over my questions, right? And I was like, God damn, Fawaz, you have to, there's certain things you need to change right now. That's the power of a question. It does so much.
Have you sent them to me yet?
And by the way, I want to make this open challenge, right? Yeah. To any entrepreneur, all right? Come inside. Wallahi, if everything doesn't change, I want you to go publicly. Just say this is a waste. I challenge anybody. That's how much data we have back here. I challenge any individual, any person, any entrepreneur who's actually ready to change themselves and thinks that they have other bottlenecks. Come study performance first, and we'll see how much of those bottlenecks are actually bottlenecks.
Well, barakallah fi Fawaz, man. Barakallah. It's been very informative, and I truly appreciate you, man, for what you're doing right now for the Muslims, for the Ummah. We always hear about guys that are in this productivity, performance type of field that are non-Muslims, right? And as you've mentioned many a time, reading these guys' works. Number one, it's not within the paradigm of the deen, right? And number two, there's sometimes disbelief, kufr and shirk inside some of these books. And 100%. You mentioned that you've had students that read that stuff and then ended up falling into disbelief and came back and, then repented. I love that you're doing this in the framework of the deen. And, one of the things that we didn't get to talk in a lot of detail with regards to, but we did touch on it, is you also help people optimize their deen as well, like 100%. Praying their salawat and charity and all these other things. So I implore everyone to check it out. This service, you only provide it for entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah. And certain entrepreneurs at a certain scale, inshallah.
At a certain scale, yes. But you have a YouTube channel as well that people can benefit from regardless, nonetheless. So the link below, if you want to be coached and mentored by Fawaz, Peak Performance Mastery. Click on it at the link below. And also his social medias will be below as well. Jazakallah khair. Barakallah feek.